Hi guys, welcome to the part 2 of how to decorate your box on outside and inside in order to mount your cross stitch. So in the part 1 I showed you how to paint box from outside, and what I want to add to it, if you would like to add a little bit more shine or make sure then your paint is not moving, you can add one layer of clear varnish. This kind of sets the paint and also give a shine to your wood, or you can also use the wood wax. However, I'm going to be leaving my box finished as I showed you in the part 1, just painted and a little bit distressed on the edges, because this kind of give me this matte finish which I am looking for. So now I'm going to show you how to finish the box on inside. Right, so we have got two options. You can either finish your box with the fabric or with the paper. I'm going to be using fabric, since I have got this beautiful Tula pink print which I really want to use, and I think it's gonna look very gorgeous in this box. What I'm trying to say, whichever you wanted to use, either paper or fabric, the procedure, the steps will be exactly the same, with only difference is that fabric, before you actually cutting your fabric and gluing onto your box, you need to make sure that it's well pressed. So that's what I'm going to be doing now. I'm going to be pressing my fabric. Now when my fabric is well pressed, I am going to measure my box on inside in order to cut my fabric appropriately. So first I'm going to focusing on the bottom part, the deeper part of the box, and I'm going to use a ruler or measuring tape, and I'm gonna measure the distance from the bottom to the top edge. So in my case it is 2.5 inches, because obviously 2.5, no, 2.25, it's 2.25. However, I do want my the edge of the box a little bit showing, so I am going to take away 1/4 inch from the top. So I will need the strap of my fabric to be 2.5 inches tall once finished. What I mean by that, if you use your fabric and your strap must be 2.5 inches, I would add additional inch to the top and to the bottom, not inch, additional 1/2 inch on top of the and the bottom, because I will be folding my fabric, so once it's glued to the box the edges are completely finished and then won't fray. If you use paper, then if you measure the distance 2.5 inches, then you cut your paper 2.5 inches, because the edges are already finished. So I'm gonna go all the way around and I'm gonna measure how much is the distance from the bottom of the box to the edge all around my box. So now I'm going to bring my iron back. I'm gonna make sure that my fabric is facing the right way if you are using the directional fabric, and I am going to press 1/2 inches all the way to the other end. Make sure then you check the direction of your fabric, because this will be on the top edge. So the area which is folded, it will be on the top. Now my both straps are ready, so I'm gonna remove my ironing board and I am going to get ready to glue my straps onto my box. I am using clear PVA glue, but any type of glue would do. Even fabric glue, it's fine as well, or tacky glue, anything which is water-based and dries clear is perfect for this project. So I add a little bit, quite generous glue into my bowl, and I will be using the paintbrush, and I'm going to apply the glue on inside quite generously, because again on inside the box is unfinished, which means it's like a sponge, it's going to soak up quite a lot of glue. So I'm going to go all the way and a little bit to the other end, to the other side, so I can actually anchor some of the fabric as well. And I'm going to also add some glue on the bottom, just to make sure that my fabric sticks well and it doesn't move from its place. Okay, so now it's time for my fabric. Remember, the side which is pressed down, it's gonna go on top of your box. Obviously, if your fabric frays a little bit or there are some threads sticking out, just clean the area, give yourself a nice and straight edge. Now what I want you to do, I'm gonna try to show you best I can. I'm going to put my fabric, you can either measure or eyeball, 1/2 inches below the edge, and as you can see my fabric is overlapping the bottom of the box, and that's what I wanted to do, because when I finish this part I want the some of the fabric already cover the box, so you cannot really see the join line, and that's what I'm going to be doing all the way around until I run out of strap and I show you how I join the other one. So I finished my stripe, and now I'm going to add strap to continue all the way around. So obviously this is the strap I want to join, so I'm going to cut off the selvage because I don't want this to show, and I'm going to add glue on top of my fabric, approximately 1/2 of an inch, and then I will continue the same all the way around. So I'm going to overlap my fabric approximately inch, half inch. Make sure it's nicely lined up from the top. Also, you can use a ruler to help you push the fabric into those corners so they are nicely finished, and then continue gluing your fabric all the way around. Use the scissors, overlap approximately half inch and cut. Finish it off exactly the same way by overlapping your fabric. Make sure then your top edges are nicely aligned, because this kind of gives away your joining point. Yeah. Remember, once your fabric is dry, all of the kind of wet splotches will dry clear, and even if your fabric has got little bubbles, then you can go over with the brush and the glue just to kind of even this out, and leave it to dry for approximately 20 minutes. Depends also, you know, if it's nice and sunny day, then you can stick it out for approximately 15 minutes. Don't need to be dry completely before we go into another step. Before we'll put my box to dry, I'm going to measure the area on inside. So remember, I am being a little bit loose. I am not adding the 0 on my ruler straight flush with the edge, because remember, fabric will take up some space as well, because I will be adding like a second bottom. So I am just measuring this roughly, so it is about 7 1/4. So this is the finish size of my inside, so 7 1/4 by 9 1/4, and I will need this measurement to cut a piece of mounting board. I'm gonna use my exact knife and my ruler, and I'm gonna measure 7 1/4, 7 1/4 by 9 1/4. That's 7 1/4. By 9 1/4. Oops. And I'm gonna bring my fabric and I'm going to choose the best spot. Remember, I have only fat quarter, so I don't have much room to play. I need to have the remaining of this fabric to finish the other part of the box, so I am not really watching the pattern or aiming for particular design. However, if you would like to fussy cut, if you would like to have a certain element in the middle, then obviously you would place your board accordingly. I am also giving myself about 1 inch wiggle room, and I'm going to remove the sticky part of the I'm going to review the sticky part of the board, and I'm going to place it directly onto my fabric. Going to give a little good press, and then I'm going to secure the edges just by folding them over. I'm gonna use the clips to hold it. Now you can either glue the fabric down, or you can just go with the tape to hold the fabric down all the way around. Remember, this area won't be showing, and no one will be able to tell how is it finished. So I'm just using tape, and I'm going all the way around. On my corners, I'm just kind of going over a few times with my nail just to make sure I have a nice and sharp corner. I'm gonna hold the fabric in place with my clips. Place one in the middle. I'm gonna be a little bit more tape at the corners because that's the area I don't want it to move. And then I'm gonna place it inside now. Remember, repeat the same step on the top lid. So now when the top part of the box is finished as well, I'm going to measure my box because I want to make sure that my cross stitch sits right in the center. So I'm going to measure my cross stitch first actually. So it is approximately 6 inches. I'm not going straight edges to edges, so it is 6, yeah, and then 8. So I know that my finished cross stitch should measure 6 by 8, and that's what I'm gonna do first. I'm going to cut my mount board 6 by 8. I'm also going to cut piece of batting 8 by 6. I have got bag full of like scraps, so I'm gonna use them first just need to find a piece which is big enough. I think this one will be perfect. So what I'm going to do, of course it's a little bit scrunched, but I will iron it with my project in a second. I'm just gonna smooth it with my hands. Okay, and I'm going to cut it 6 by 8. So I know then those two edges are nicely clean up, so I'm gonna line my ruler with those two lines. Where's the one? It's here. So that's 6, that's 8. Okay. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna remove the paper to reveal the sticky part. I'm going to stick my batting over it. It doesn't really matter if it sticks out a little bit because I can always just trim it. Okay, if you want to have a little bit more puffy, then you can add another layer of batting. However, for now I'm happy with one. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to press my project to get rid of any wrinkles or any hoop marks. Then I'm going to add some fusible interfacing to protect my stitches. Then I'll show you what to do. Now I'm going to use a ruler to help me measure 8 inches. This ruler is 8.5, so I know I'm only looking up to here. So using a friction pen, I am going to mark myself 8 inches, make sure I have got enough space. I can see through the interfacing, and this is my 8 inches here. This one just to give myself a references. Oh, this one is empty. Get another one. This is just to have a reference. How should I align my board? So this is 8. Now I'm going to measure 3 inches from the center. I am roughly, you can always fold the project, which means you meet both ends and just kind of crease it gently. So I know then this is the center. So then from the center, I'm gonna measure 3 inches. And I know this is 6. And then I'm gonna do the same on the other side. This is 6. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm going to place my board. I'm gonna also trim a little bit of those edges. I don't want too much of the fabric showing all the way around. You can be more precise, just trim it with your rotary cutter. I'm just going for scissors. And also, if you hear all of the noises from outside, like trains and traffic, it's just because it's such a hot day in London today, and my windows are wide open, so I hope you don't mind all of the noises. And Right, I just fold my fabric from the center on all 4 sides just to check the placement. Okay, because I want my project to be even on both sides. I think I can shift this one a little bit more to this side, and from the bottom pretty much. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use my iron to iron the fabric so it doesn't flip it. Also, you can remove the plastic so it doesn't stick to your iron, and then you can just flip your fabric back again. Okay, so that's one. I tend to start from the short side, just the personal preferences. It usually works for me. I am also pulling my fabric a bit. I want my fabric to be taut. If you like lacing, you can lace your project onto the board. I usually only lace my frame pieces. When I stick my project on top of the boxes, I usually go for the lazy method, which is I use the duct tape. Since I am pretty happy with the placement, I'm going to use the duct tape and I'm going to stick the tape to the top of the fabric, and then I'm gonna pull it down and I'm gonna stick it. I also use the clips to help me hold the tape so it doesn't move on me, and then I repeat the same step on the other side. Like I said, this is the lazy method. If you want to be more precise, if you want to have a nice finish back of your project, then go for lacing. And then I'm also doing that from the center. So this is my box, this is my back of my project. Now I can also move the fabric around. I can play with it if I feel then it need to be shifted, but because it's only holding at the back with the duct tape, it's kind of playable. You can always stretch it and you can always move it a little bit more. But I think I've done it pretty good job with lining this up. Now the fun part, we're going to be mounting the project onto the box. So I'm going to move the hot iron. I'm going to also move my board. I'm going to bring my project forward. I'm going to, again, I eyeball everything. I am not really, you know, using my tools to measure, but if you want to be precise, again, you would take your ruler, whatever, and go all the way around to check if the distance is exactly the same. I think I am a pretty bang on. What I like to do, I give myself a little dot to mark the corners, so I know when I will be using my hot glue, I know exactly where to where to line my project. I am quite messy with it, doesn't really matter. Now I'm gonna look for my corners and I'm gonna glue this on. Oops, make sure you don't break your box. Alternatively, you can use a spray glue, which holds really well as well. However, I like hot glue. It's really easy and manageable. So that's the project mounted on top. I also would like to finish the edges, and I will be using Chanel yarn in 2 different colors, and I'm gonna twist them as I go all the way around. So I'm gonna start from the bottom, and I'm gonna add dollop of glue where I will start. Just be careful, the hot glue is quite hot. I'm gonna also push this under with my scissors, just to make sure that it doesn't show. Okay, and then I'm going to very gently adding glue, or if you want to have a more control, use fabric glue. This will just apply a little amount ever so often. Keep twisting your yarn as you go and keep gluing all the way around. I'm gonna start with the hot glue. We'll see how clean I can be, and if it's really messy, I'm gonna switch to fabric glue. I'm also pushing this little bit inside as well. So continue all the way around. Now we're getting to the end, so I'm going to give myself a little bit more room. I'm going to cut my trim a little bit more than I need, because if I twist this a little bit tighter, then my yarn gets shorter. So now I'm going to cut this off, because I want my both ends to finish flush, and then I'll keep adding my glue without letting go. I'm just gonna push this in. I've added a little bit of glue on the top, or maybe you can use the fabric glue, because this is going to prevent the fabric from fraying, and once it's dry, it actually dries clear. So at this moment you can really see, but when it's dry, it's going to be clear. Okay, so I'm going to leave everything to dry, because the fabric on my box is still not 100% dry, and I will show you how the box looks once it's completely dry. So this is the final look. I've decided not to add any hinges or locks, just keep the box simple as it is. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed it.